Hi guys, welcome to Mobile App Prototyping. This is the second meetup of our concept to market meetup series. So in this meetup, we'll be exploring like how prototyping works, what is the process of prototyping, what is the process to follow. So this is actually, this is different from what we as app developers, what we do. So so that's why there are different teams. There's UX team, there's developer team, there's testing team, right? So that's why there are different teams. So they bring one second. It's on. So, hello. No, I don't think it's on. So that's why there are different teams to bring different perspective and not to think in just one direction. So what happens is usually I'm an app developer. So whenever I get an idea, so I think of UI based on what are the components I have available on Android Studio. What are the components I have available on Xcode for iOS development. So this prototyping, this should not be dependent on what are the components available. Feasibility check, yes, we have to do. But it should not be dependent on the components that are available for developers. It should be completely different from that, right? So that is what we're going to learn today. How many of you were there in the previous meetup? Okay, some of you were there. So in this meetup series, what we're trying to do is, we are actually we'll be developing one complete app from scratch on Android and iOS. So in this particular meetup, we'll create the wireframe, the sketch, the UI of the app, and we'll create that app on Android and iOS in further meetups. So we have planned a series of 10 meetups. This is our second meetup. From third meetup, we'll go for design, then we'll go for development, then other stuff will be there. We'll share a link where you can see the list of meetup topics later. So just some general guidelines before we start. So please keep your cell phones in silent mode. And there's Wi-Fi password that's available with all of you on the feedback form. So you're free to use the Wi-Fi, but please do not abuse those resources. We expect gentlemanly conduct from everybody. And please respect your fellow members. We do not tolerate any harassment of any kind. So if you see like some harassment or something that's going wrong, please contact me, or there is a guard outside. You can contact him. That's it. And there are suggestions are welcome. So in last meetup we received a lot of suggestions. So one suggestion was one feedback was this meetup is too basic. Yes, this is basic. And this is what we're trying to cover. This will be actually this is a basic series, and it will cover some intermediate stuff. This is not advanced stuff. But after this series, all the attendees, we all will be comfortable enough to go for advanced level topics, things like Android app architecture, things like protocol-oriented programming, right? And architecture design patterns, other things, then we can go for that. But right now, it is entirely basic thing. And usually in meetups, how many of you are first timers who are coming for the first time in our Pune Mobile Developers? 2 of you. Okay, there are 6, 7 of you. Okay. So what we do is we conduct these meetups, and it's usually open unless the speakers, unless they mention it. It's usually open. If you have a question, you can stop the speaker right there. It's not like there are 500 people here, so you can stop the speaker right there, and you can ask the question if you have the question. If you have any doubt, you can clear it up. And at the end of the session, what we do is you can ask any doubt regarding the session, or you can, at the end, if you have any other doubts, then we as a community, if I'm not good enough in something, I'm not able to clear your doubts, so somebody else from the community, they can clear it up. So we'll have like an informal discussion session after the session, after every meetup that we have. So that's this guidelines. A little brief about Pune Mobile Developers. We started in August 2013 as a part, and we are actually a part of Google Developer Communities. It was earlier known as Together with Google. So this was actually a very proud achievement for us, thanks to our members. And we have conducted, including previous meetup, we have conducted 36 meetups so far. And we right now have 4,600 plus members. And our focus is primarily on mobile technology. It's not limited to that, but the primary focus is mobile technology. You can check out our meetup page. And another thing is, in the first meetup of this series, the RSVP that we received was 116. And in this meetup, we received over 160. And next meetup, I don't know how many we are going to receive. So it's actually increasing. So I request all of you who have not actually signed up on the Pune Mobile Developers page, please sign up and RSVP. Those of you whose name was not there in that entry, in that list of attendees, please sign up so your name will appear there. And next time it's possible that because of huge number of RSVPs, we might actually tell you to, once you receive a confirmation mail, then only you should come. And if you have been coming to the meetup if you have been coming to a lot of meetups, then we'll probably pick the people, those guys who have been our regular members, we'll pick our active members first before picking others. So yeah, please sign up on the meetup.com page and join the Pune Mobile Developers community if you have not already. Another initiative that we actually tried, I announced this in the last meetup, is actually collaborative projects. So we have a Slack group. We'll share the link to how to join the Slack group. So what we're doing is, to keep the community alive and vibrant, we're looking for volunteers. So if you have some free time and you want to contribute to the community causes, please contact me on Slack. So we can actually, on Slack, we can keep the community alive and vibrant, and we can discuss ideas, and maybe we can work on some collaborative projects. The one initiative that we are working right now is we have one collaborative project initiative that is on meetup.com feedback. So we're creating an app and using meetup.com APIs. This app will actually, help us in putting up the feedback there. So the feedback form that you have right now will be gone after that app is done. Save trees, right? So that is an initiative that we're doing, and we already have I think 8 volunteers there who are ready to help. And that collaborative project we are also progress as we progress this meetup. So if you're interested, please do contact me after the meetup or on the Slack.
Slack will be you can initiate the English?
Yeah.
Not Marathi.
No, just English. I mean, if I do communicate in Marathi or Hindi, you can mention that, okay, I don't know Marathi, so then we'll change it to English. This is mostly about the C2M meetup series that I already explained. So in the previous meetup, I think a lot of you were not there. So we have recorded the session. Even this session is being recorded. So we'll share the link to the YouTube videos of the recordings we have. In the first meetup, we covered Android basics and Android and iOS basics. This is of prototyping. And here we'll create the UX, the UI for the app that we'll develop in the rest of the meetups of this series. And actually the good thing about this is, this is the focus here is actually if you are comfortable with Android, get out of your comfort zone and learn something about iOS. If you're an iOS developer, learn something about Android. You don't have to become an expert, but at least it will be good to know something, to know the mobile domain, to know the mobile ecosystem, how it works. It's not about, Android is bad or iOS is good or which one is good or bad. It's about how the good is the ecosystem, how we can actually, take advantage of the ecosystem and ease our pain as developers. So that's the C2M series is all about. So since we're covering Android and iOS both, we received some suggestions regarding covering a hybrid app development and cover Flutter or React Native or Xamarin cross-platform app development. We will do that, but after the series is done. So this is to set up the basics. And the thing I sent out a form saying if you want to, in this meetup series, this is our second meetup. There are 8 meetups to go. It could be 9 or 10 also, depending on the on the further meetups. So there were some people who actually volunteered to come forward and speak here about iOS development and Android development. I'm not sure if you guys are here. Is Mrinali here? Mrinali Janghare, Gopal Mane, Gaurav Manik Lonkar, Kapil Gorve, Akshay Yalsange, Deepak Pawar. Ravinder Benale, Karan Rathod. Okay, so these guys are the ones who actually volunteered. So if you want to speak about the topic, we expect to come on the meetup every meetup, so you know what is the series, right? Even now, if you want to, at the end we'll show that. If you want to know like what will be the third meetup, what will be the fourth meetup, it will be design phase, then development phase, and then there'll be a testing phase, and there will be monetization phase also, adding ads. So if you are interested in speaking about those topics, not necessarily Android and iOS both, even just Android or just iOS. So yeah, please mention your interest. Please contact me so we can arrange that. Yeah, so that's all from the starting point. So we have two UX developers here, two UX guys here. So they will actually explain the process what we follow in Talentica. Manoj, please come forward. So why don't you introduce yourself, then you can start.
I'm Manoj and this is Rahul. Hello. We are part of the design team from Tech-Meetup. And before we start, I will try to make this a little bit more interactive because so that it's more connecting, right? So why don't we do this first? Let's just introduce ourselves quickly, so we know who is who, and where we're working, and just the name, where we're working, and what do we do. Yeah. You can start.
Okay, so I'll start. I'm Kaushal Dhruv. I work at Talentica. I have around 8 years of experience, mostly into mobile domain. Yeah, that's it.
So my name is Rohan Ratnavati. I'm also working in Talentica, and my primary domain is iOS.
So my name is Sagar Yadav. Currently, I'm working at Yansar Digital. I have 2 years of experience in mobile.
Sanket Agrawal. I'm a founder of an app called Metonics, and I have 13 years of experience in IT.
I'm Dheeraj Maza. I'm the founder of Rishte Dhage. So this is basically a community-based matrimony. I'm Akhil Kumar. I work in a startup called Project. I graduated 6 months back, and I mostly work in Ionic, and I started with React.
I'm Sanjana, and here I work at Star Project. I've been working there for a year and a half now, and even I work in mobile development, mostly hybrid.
I'm Ashil. I'm very represented today.
Hi, I'm Vishwajit Sandhu. I work with MindBrowser Info Solutions. I work there as business analyst and project manager.
Hi, I'm Sagar Pandra. Even I work at MindBrowser. Since last 4 years, we're into mobile applications.
I am Rahul Rathod. I'm also working with MindBrowser Info Solutions, and I'm at ISL.
I'm Sakletcha. I'm working as a DPA from last 12 years and working in Asia, and started learning Android from last 1 month.
Okay.
When it's coming from, I'm self-employed and give services to the overseas clients. I'm an Android developer in Xamarin technology.
My name is Singh. I'm a freelance IT consultant. I mainly work for some Japanese companies in Mumbai.
It's great.
I'm Shubham Joshi, Internet GSR. I'm mostly working on Kubernetes and Docker.
Hi, my name is Jyotish Vira, and I am working as an Android application developer in Harvard Technology.
Hi, my name is Nikhil Gurbe. I am an Android developer in Pune Mobile.
Hi, my name is Manoj, and I'm a hybrid of developer in Pune Systems.
Hi, I'm Manoj Kaundeni. I'm also working at Pune Systems Private Limited. I'm a designer.
Hi everyone, I'm Prashant Naikar. I'm an iOS developer and I'm working in development.
Hi everyone, I'm Parmav Kotuve. I'm working as a solution architect in GSR. I have various experience in storage, Azure, and cloud.
Hello all, I am Sachin Lavadi. I have 3 years of Android development experience, and I am currently working at the software.
Hi, this is Santosh Kato. I work with Microsoft with the Scrum Masters. So I do video course on mobile.
I'm Sachin. I'm working as a mobile developer. Very 6 years of experience.
Hello, I'm Pawan here, and I'm working with the MasterCard as a software test engineer.
Hi, Rishikesh Gurveya, So I'm working with Affiliate Technology. I have 3 years of experience in Android development.
I myself struggle working as an iOS developer in Talent.
Okay, guys, I am Sagar Singh, working as a UI developer in Talent.
Hi, my name is Sanjay Motwani, and I am working with Manchik Software Labs and as a Java developer.
Hello everyone, my name is Pratik Dasara. I'm working in Mindstick Software Labs. I'm having Android experience more than 4 years.
Okay, great. So we have one designer, right? Yeah. That's great. So please bear with us because what we're going to do today is going to be very basic. But is there anyone else who has who is familiar with design tools like Adobe, Photoshop, Illustrator, Sketch? That's great. So for this, all of us, please bear with us because we'll walk through some of the tools very basic. For the other people, it will be a good experience. So before we start, right? So we just want to know what are your expectations from this meetup. We'll just write it. We will try to cover as much as possible. What are the expectations?
So when we design, what are the rapid development tools what we use and can be incorporated in a design process? Right?
Yeah,
time to market things can be achieved.
Tools is one thing.
Because a lot of times we use same components, right?
Yes.
So an application may have a chat,
Yeah.
may have a profile, may have a lot of these common components. How do
Correct.
we make those
Fast.
Any other thing?
design aesthetics or
Okay.
Yes.
Then the statistics.
What are the fundamentals that we have to take care before building any UI or UI of that?
So here we have the prototype for mobile apps, so which also ports to tablets. So
Right.
how to make same design apps for multiple devices.
You can write a response.
So, how we consider the personas?
Sorry, personal.
Personas.
Right, so we'll take it through that.
Tips for designer to avoid the clashes with the Android developers. For design.
That's not personal names. It's like those developer and
So the best thing is we just talk to the developers before we start. So basically, so these are the things that we'll be covering: tools, design aesthetics, right? Fundamentals of creating a component or a style guideline. Multiple platform, if we have time to cover this. Personas, again, it's a huge topic. We'll try to cover it. So it's part of the design process. So when we take up any project, right? So we look at a certain aspect. So all these aspects combines together to form the information architecture. Without this, it's really difficult for us to understand the project also and to actually start working. So the first thing that we look at is the context. What are the business contexts? What are the vision? What are the goals? What are the values? Something like that is a loan application software where they automate loan processing. So we look at what the company visions are, what are the goals, what are the values of this particular product. Then we look at the user part because this is very important because in the end, who is going to use it? Without understanding the user, we cannot do anything because even if we create something and the user doesn't know how to use it or it's not usable, it fails. So we right.
Most of the times we are doing for the client, but ultimately we are building product or service for the user. So we need to understand that part.
So just to cover a small, like a very small part of how to create a persona. So there are different ways to create personas. So the projects that we get here, if it is a very time constant, like we have very little time to create those, then we ask the client if they have done any research on the user. Based on that, we try to understand the user demographic, right? The age group, what are the technologies they use. But apart from that, if we have to go really deep down, we actually look at the user's day-to-day life. This can, some projects go on for like almost 3-4 months or more than a year. So like Oracle's, for example, they do like huge user persona researches, and it takes almost 2-3 years to do that. Again, it depends on how much time we have. We understand the need, what are the basic needs of the user, and we understand the user pain point. Without understanding the need and without understanding the pain points, it is again difficult to decide what to be focused and what to be kept as certain things which can be kept aside. Now the content is mostly say backend stuff, but again we need to consider this also, because which comes where, again it's also going to depend. So once we make sense of the data, once we have all the data of the the user needs, the business needs, the context. So once we have the information architecture, we start grouping the information based on what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. Once we do that, we look at the use cases, and then we create the task flows. Something like, so this project means creating a loan application, a title, and what are the teams, who are the sponsors in this, what are the personal information, the company information, the company information, what are the libraries, what are the things that comes into the product itself. We look at it. Then we create a complete end-to-end task flows. But these task flows can again be broken down into different parts. So once what we do is we look at the product as a whole, and then we get an entire task flow, the broad level. Then we take small parts and we break up the task flows, so that it's easier for us to understand what will come in this screen, what will come in the second screen. Once we have that, so we need to do this first, then only we create the wireframes. Again, wireframes are divided into two parts. I'm not sure if you're aware of low fidelity and high fidelity wireframes. So just to quickly understand, right? So can we just do a quick mock-up of a wireframe? So the brief will be something like we're searching for a burger somewhere in Banner, and we want to create a wireframe for the landing page. It's a mobile app, and we want to create a landing page for the listing, search listing. We search for burger in Banner, and we just want to know what are the available burgers in Banner in a mobile screen. Let's be open to whatever, like, it doesn't have to look good, like, just the information is important.
So, your voice needs to be recorded, so either be close to this, or you can take that.
Okay.
Right. The screen is getting recorded, the camera is actually pointing here. So if you go there, it will not be recorded.
Okay.
So if you stay in this area,
I'll stay.
So a list of stores where they sell burgers.
You can say list of list of restaurants, or you can say list of burgers. So maybe the element, just for example, right? It might have an image. The dish image might have name of the dish, the name of the restaurant, or some details about it. And we don't need a very detailed out wireframe. We just need to look at. We're just trying to achieve, trying to understand what is a low fidelity wireframe, what is a high fidelity wireframe. Let's complete this in another 1 minute. Pressure.
Then if it comes 60.
Yeah. आपको पता है? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so I want everyone to stop now and just think of a scenario. Think of a skeleton, a human skeleton, and we start putting in blocks to make it a human, a living human. So when we look at the skeleton, so if me, Rahul, or anyone else, this basic skeleton is going to remain the same, and there's not much information on it. So that's what we call a low fidelity wireframe. And when we start putting in the organs, the skin, the color, not the colors, color comes later, detailing, then it becomes a high fidelity wireframe. But then we start putting in colors, the skin, and all these things, it becomes a visual design. So something similar to that. So when we look at some of these mock-up, right, we quickly did. So some of us have a wireframe like this. So it's a very basic structure where it says it's an image. It says it's in text, right? Some of us, I haven't seen anyone drawing an image. So this name, rating, right? Or some information, right? Some information we start writing. So we started filling in the content for this. So that becomes the high fidelity wireframe. Something like this, right? So we have the screen logo here, the loader image here. We have basic information on where the image comes, where the rating comes, where the title comes, where the body text comes, and then where the button comes, right? Then this is more like a detail page where we have some buttons here and descriptions, the image. So we start filling in details here. Now we know that, okay, this is an image, something very similar. It relates to a food related item, right? Now we started filling all this detail, right? Then we get an idea of what works and what doesn't work. So here we do a lot of work in this stage and with the client to finalize what information needs to come where. Once we do that, we actually create a visual mood board based on, say, the user need, right? The basic goal of the app, right? The product. All these attributes combined together so that we are able to explain what the product is in a very simple manner. Then once we finalize this, we create the style guideline. So that this will be, this again a breakdown of the main mood board. Then we create the guidelines. Again, this is not a fixed guideline. If something works, great. Something doesn't work because a lot of happens like, so we're given a certain color palette and something is still missing. So we need to create another secondary colors, right? So that is where we come into play, where we have to say like, this doesn't work and we have to add this color. So that is, again, a part of an experience where, again, it takes a lot of practice to do that, right? So all this combined together to form the design process. So we cannot work as a single part. We have to work together, right? Me as a designer, you as a developer, right? We have to work together and we have to build the thing completely. So for the next part, we're just going to quickly. So one disclaimer here, in the poster that it's written sketch, right? So we're not trying to promote sketch. It's just that it makes more sense to connect. So what we're going to do here is we're going to load all the available files. So what we have here is the wireframes. We're going to take the high fidelity wireframes. And then we also need the style guideline. And stop me anytime if there's some confusion. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create the style guideline. For example, I want to create this color, these two color. We need to create all the style guideline, but just for example, where does toolbar go? Okay. Right, this is one tool, and this is not the only tool. So we'll mention some other tools in the later stage. For there's no such thing as we have to work with this tool. You can work with any tool, whichever works. This is called Sketch. Yeah. You know, it's only on Mac. We started exploring this just a week back. So we actually haven't.
The reason get covering sketches because this is.
It has a lot of features which can be directly implemented. Like we can directly develop it using.
You can directly connect
plugins.
Using which you can directly convert this UI into the source code that you can directly use in export. And this is actually quite developer friendly.
Yes.
I mean, this is not exactly a UX tool, but for developers who want to use it, this is actually the option.
So if you actually ask any designer about a design tool, right? So the most used design tool will be most of the Adobe softwares. So these are more, in terms of design, these are more flexible. They are more powerful and we can do a lot of stuff with it. But this is like a filtered out version of Illustrator, Photoshop, and all these other tools. Yes, no, they do. Previously, they don't have. Photoshop is like it's a raster-based. Right. So it's a raster-based software. So again, there's a lot of issue when you use raster rather than vectors, because when scaling up, it becomes pixelated. But you can still use Photoshop. So it depends on how you use it. If you make the prototype in a very the highest resolution, you can scale it down, but the file becomes heavier. Sketch is very light. And another vector tool which we'll recommend is Illustrator, because it's again more user friendly in terms of all these mobile applications and all the vector based, right?
The second one is to Mac.
It's for both. Yeah. For Adobe software, you get it for both platforms.
How about Adobe XD?
Adobe XD is another version of, I think they launched it just a few years back. And this is very similar to Sketch. After Sketch launched, this Bohemian Code launched Sketch, right? So after they launched Sketch, then they feel, because there was a big, huge competition, right? Everyone was jumping to Sketch because it's lighter and it's more user friendly. So Adobe started XD. We haven't used it. Sagar has used it. I don't know how user friendly that is. Right. So we actually need to try it. Sketch is like, Sketch is all the tools. If you look at all the design tools, right? If you know one design tool, design software, all the tools looks familiar because conventions remains the same. So you know one tool, then you can shift to another tool. It might take 1 or 2 days, but you get used to it. This is a license, but you buy it once and
you renew it.
Even if you don't renew, you can use it still, but you don't get updates. Free. They are free tools, but yeah, there is Inkscape. Inkscape is only for Windows, I think.
It's like open source version. It's like a better version of MS Paint.
It's much better.
So we have Inkscape, but it's I think only for Windows. Mac is compatible, but we need to install something. I don't know what we need to install something. I don't remember it. Inkscape. INKS Inkscape. And there are some other tools. We can send those out later. Those are the tools.
Even if you download Sketch pirated.
I won't recommend that. Please don't do this. Yeah.
There is one more tool to start it, to start basic. It's called as Balsamic.
Yes, Balsamic is mostly for wireframing. So for the wireframing, so most powerful tool for wireframing, which I think we just agreed will be pencil and paper. Yeah. So color palette. So this is an assumption that this has been decided. So this again take a long process. So when we decide the mood board, right? The mood board is based on the product, what the product is about, what kind of mood that it sets, and all these business goals, business needs, user group, all this comes into play when we create the mood board. So, and there is another part when we design the logo. So the logo design also, it is also a part of the mood board. Mood board is part of the logo design, right? So when you get the logo is not so I would say branding, not logo. Logo is just one part. So when you create the brand, the complete brand, right? We create the colors, we create the typography, we create the imagery styles, we create the layout, how it should come, we create the spacing. All this needs to be taken care when we do the branding. So branding is something that we haven't, because it's a huge topic. We're not going to cover it, and it will take like almost. It's like a 3 years course, so difficult to cover in a day or so. Some parts we can do. So any other questions?
Very basic technique that we should do for color design. So if there is an app like restaurant app, like dating app, so how we can
it's actually difficult. You need to understand the product. You don't understand the product, you don't understand the users. Without that, it's difficult to create. So, for example, right, we have to create a brand for a say an app for a school going children, learning app, and an app for a very elderly old age group. So you can see the color tone there. You can separate those. Something like that. It's so you need to understand the user, you need to understand what it is.
Color palette. The first color, what is that A? Is look, I want same color to every mobile the same way. What happened to the mobile? I change mobile.
Right.
One is Moto, one is Samsung, whatever.
Right.
So that time the color changes to every mobile.
Right. Right.
So
Correct.
what I have to think, have to think about that. How the color should be same in every mobile.
Yeah. This is something that we cannot control actually, but we can set it to a certain point where it says it's a orange color. That's it. So if you look at this screen in Mac and if you look at this screen in Windows, completely different. So we have no control over it. But if we're doing something for print, yes, we can control. That you know already. So shall I continue? I'm just copying this because we don't have a lot of time, and I'm going to replace this color with the colors that we available here. Ideally, I should copy this and then paste it there, but I'm not going to do that. So once this is set, right, what we need to do is here in the, so these features again not available in Illustrator and Photoshop currently. It's available in InDesign. Again, InDesign is mostly layout, mostly for prints, mostly. We're going to create this and say orange bright. The next one is orange darker. Gray light. It's okay. Anyways, let it go. Black. Now we have this. Also, we need to set the typeface, the font styling for the same. So, but I want to do it later. But before we do that, I'm going to quickly show how we're going to create a simple icon, a fab icon. So what we do is we insert a shape. So this is a circle, right? We insert a shape, and then we choose this color. Again, so if you look at it, this color is not going to work. Maybe may not be. Then we need to change it later. And any suggestion on how we create a plus? Right. Simplest. So just create 2 lines. Visible? 3. What we do is we rotate the same rectangle. And we center line this and group it. Once we have done this, the next step that we're going to do is we're going to create this as a symbol. So why we're doing this, again, we'll come back to that later. So just to make things easier, so we have actually created this last night so that we can quickly go through. So we just want to show the process, how it's done, but we've created this palette before. So what we're going to do is we will create this page first, this page, the detail, the listing page, For this, again, a quick, what do you call this? We'll just delete the artboard, right? How do we select an artboard? So there are different versions of Android here. Different versions of, say, you can set the responsive website, then a paper size, another thing, and Apple device also you can say. The simplest thing that we're going to take is the 360 UI 640. This may be Android, may not be Android, maybe an iOS app, but we're taking this size for some reason. So this is in Android, this is called MBP, right? If everyone is familiar with it, right? And in terms of iOS, it's 1x. So why 1x or why MBP, MDPI? Because it's the simplest, it's the easiest. So we can multiply anything with 1 and we get the same value, right? So that's the only reason we're doing that. Plus the size, because this is a basic size, right? The basic, the first smallest size, especially for iOS. Android, I don't know how many nowadays they use LDPI.
4x HDPI.
Yeah. So, but LDPI, I don't know if any device use it. Almost gone. So I would say MDPI is the smallest size now, and we can multiply with any value. Right. So this if you actually look at this, the size, and divide it, that ratio will remain same for almost all devices. Right. So if the target audience is something that they're gonna use a lot of those bigger devices.
The newer devices now are
right, correct. So if the aspect ratio is going to be same, right, it's not going to affect much. The aspect ratio is if they're going to differ so much, then we need to check like how different it comes in a bigger screen and how different it comes in a smaller screen. If it doesn't affect much, then we're going to go with the smaller screen settings. Otherwise, we'll have to again create for the bigger device so that it doesn't look really bad there. That's again a decision that we need to take. But ideally, the app that we did, right, till now, we mostly work with MDPI or 1x, and it actually goes almost, it works for all the platforms because the aspect ratio is almost the same, slight difference, but almost same. But there's something that we can check. So it depends on the user, depend on how different it's going to look. Okay. That we can take a decision better. So like that, I have created a symbol, right? The fab icon. So it's available here. So in this file, we have the symbols created. And then we're going to integrate it here. We're just going to drag and drop here. So navbar, we don't have, wait. We start with the status bar. So this is something that is fixed everywhere. So we need to take this into consideration first. Align this. I need to get the style guideline and the wireframe. So what we have here is the logo here. We create a rectangle here, and the size will be say 80 altogether. We'll take 56 for the header without the status bar, but we're going to combine it together so that later on when we try to give a background color for the status bar, it merges. And for this, we're going to apply a style guideline that we've created. So we just applied here. The reason why we created this style guideline was to quickly implement this. Here, we're going to insert the logo here. Again, similarly, we created the symbol that we just created. We created the logo. And we aligned it in the center. And we start creating the this card, right? So what all information does this card have? We have the image, we have ratings here, we have the dish name, and some information about it. Now, when we look at the wireframe again, so we validate the wireframe again. What information is important? Do we need to see something is missing here? Like, we need to see the restaurant details here, because we just have the dish information and the detail about it. But we also want to know little information about the restaurant information too. So we're going to add it in the visual design. So some things, if it is missed in the wireframe, we add it in the visual design. Insert a rectangle here. And set the size to 360 is fixed and 180 for now. It's too big. 120. And we import an image. This is too big, so we need to reduce it. So this needs to fit here. So we'll change the size later if it doesn't work. Also, we're going to need some spacing here since it's going to be a card. So ideally, for Android, 16 pixels is 16 dp is something that they want on both sides. But 16 dp and this card, again, some spacing here, it's going to be a lot of space. So we take 8 dp from here and 8 dp from there. So 360 dp. 16. So in the Android material design guideline, right? If you look at it, so they mentioned that the ideal spacing from side, it should be 16 dp from both sides. But again, design is such a discipline that you need to break, because some guidelines work, some guidelines doesn't work in some scenario. So okay, we're going to remove 16. And now, because we started, when we use the image here and the gray background here, it's not going to work. And white is going to be lost. So we put a background here. And we give a very light background for this F6, F6, F6. Now we can see the card slightly, but we still feel that this needs to highlight a little bit more. So what we're going to do is we're going to introduce a little bit of drop shadow. This is too harsh, so we set the color for a slightly lighter color, and then uniform shadow, and this I think looks better. Now we're going to bring in the first information is the ratings, right? So we have the dish name, the information. So we've already created the symbols for this, so I'm just going to drag and drop the insert there. Where is this? not this. And this looks really big, so I'm going to reduce it to 18. I'm going to copy this and duplicate it 5 times. And I'm going to introduce, put in the dish name here. So say this is an ocean. And we apply the, so this again, we created it last night only, the dish name here. Here, so the information that we wanted to show, the restaurant. So we need to create a hierarchy here. For this, we're going to use a slightly smaller and a different color. And we also need 2-line description that I'm going to write. No, I'm not going to write. I'm just going to copy some text from here. And this is a body text description. So there are still some bugs in Sketch that I think they're still trying to fix. Like alignment is a big issue here. It just aligns anywhere. You cannot set a certain element and then align to this. In Illustrator, if you work with Illustrator or Photoshop, you can align to a certain thing. Now, if I want to change these ratings to just 4, what I will do is, we can do the same thing from here, but I'm going to replace the icons that we have created here. And this becomes a 4-star rating. So once we say it's final, the same thing like we did previously, we also create a symbol for this. Create symbol, and we say this dish results. And the reason why we've created this, I'm just going to quickly walk through. So once we've done that, same property is going to be applied everywhere for this. And say we have this kind of screen, like some hundred of them, and we wanted to change the styling for this name. For that, there are ways to do it, but if I actually go and change this name, then I have to do it for all of them, which is a very tedious process. When we create the symbol, we just go into symbol, or we just double click on this, and just we change the styling here. Say this is too light, body text is too big, and we say the color slightly darker. And why it's not applying? Say, for example, we say this is okay, and we want to make the size of the dish slightly smaller. We say 80, for example. And once we do that, it's applied everywhere. Look at it. This is a quicker way. And I want to undo that. And so sometimes like this status bar is again something that's remains constant, but how do we make it a little more interesting, right? We can also change the background color so that it matches with the layout. We set this to 10 pixel. The opacity will merge with the layout slightly better. So some decisions that we need to consider while doing this. Rahul, do you want to take over? What? He needs the mouse, so we cannot connect the mouse. So again, it's a very bad design. So to connect port till there to connect. So, like, assume that we have created all this, and we actually open the ones that have, because if I take you to all the process, then because of the time that we have, I don't know how much time we have. Where's the other file? No, save what? No. The other file? Download from Gmail. Let's not do the entire thing because it's going to take a lot of time. Gmail. We can just walk through the how we're going to export these things.
Let's say we are designing and place the button on the UI. Also have to mention that when the button is pressed, how it should look.
That is part of design this.
So
for that, we need to get another screen with the interaction. We can do that. Right? So we've created this, like the question he has, right? So when we click on a button and the interaction. So for that, because these are flat images and we cannot do much on this. So what we have to do is, we need to create, so maybe this button placement is not correct. We just place it here for now. Yes, it does. Just for now, just for the reference, right? So we just wanted to create the interaction for this. So when we tap, what are the expected the outcomes, right, for the screen? So we just want to focus on the screen. What we can do here is to make this screen looks more focused on this button only. We introduce a rectangle here, an overlay. It's just the button, but the background also needs to be visible. So we reduce the opacity to say 50%. Now this button is in focus, but when we tap on the button, then this state also needs to be changed, right? So it becomes a close, for example. We just rotate this, it becomes a close. And when we hit on this, say there are two more buttons that comes. Say one is a like button, and one is a comment button. Now these are not visible. For that, we need to do the same thing again. To highlight this. Oops. So we'll create a rectangle here. And maybe we'll align it to the left. Because all these are rounded, right? So also make this a little bit rounded so that the visual language becomes the same. And sometimes it, again, in most of the guidelines say you write the button name also. So we'll just write it there. icons, isn't it? Now, if you want to quickly look at the interaction, so Sketch has recently launched this feature where you can see the mock directly. So you link it to the screen. But the micro interaction part, we cannot do it in, it's not so powerful now. There are other tools for that, like one is Flinto, and another one will be Principal. And there's also a tool called Just in Mind where you can do everything. But it's a more complex tool. And if you look at this screen, right, I'm going to make this clickable. So we know where to click. Wait, I didn't check the interaction correctly. Now we can do this. We can see this outcomes. So quickly we can see how the screen works. More powerful interaction, like if we want the icon to move it slightly, then we can use tools like Flinto or Principal. But again, the interaction, the tool there is a little bit complex. And the reason why we created the symbols, the style guideline, was mostly for quickly changing something, right? There's another reason also. Say the main goal of this workshop, right? So we actually wanted to export these icons for different platforms quickly. There are ways to do that. Initially, when Sketch wasn't there, initially when this mobile development was a boom, right? So we don't have tools, so that the right tool to create those assets. So what we did was initially we create artboards. Say artboard for, I'll take 100 by 100, just to be simple, and say this is 1x. For 2x, we need to multiply this and create another artboard. And for 3x, this was how we used to do. So we used to create each and every element icons for different screens, and imagine like there are like 100 icons.
So for Android, we have to.
Android is more, right? There are five of them, right? So we need to create another set of icons for this. So it's a very tedious process. So once Sketch come into play, so they introduced, Sketch was mainly for development. It was mostly for development purpose. So they simplified stuff, and now these similar features available in almost all the tools that we get here now. So if you want to export a certain icon, like say this, what we do is we make this exportable, and from this setting we choose either iOS, we get everything in all the things set here, or we just choose Android. So sometimes Android developers say like we don't want any name in the icon, suffix or prefix, we just remove this. Or you want to add a suffix, you can add it, and then you say export. No, it's so we have settings here. I'll show you. PNG, we have JPEG, we have SVG. SVG again is mostly used in web, right? but mobile they use. Okay, great, because PNG files, JPEG files to like they get pixelated a lot if you scale it up. If you can use SVG, that's a great use. EPS we can use because it's a big size. I don't know if it supports web, but for mostly prints, EPS is the file, the vector file. PDF and EPS. All these other options that we get, and there are more options in if you choose Illustrator or Photoshop as an option. And while working on this, so I was just talking to Rahul, right? And he said, "Can we make this a little bit more interesting?" And he created this. I'll take the same layout. I remove this, and he created an image. And just drag and drop here. What happened? Now the text are not visible. We need to change it. And the image size is too big. Something like this. And then I was like, okay, let's make it more interesting. So we use the same background color here. Like this again, these are decisions that we need to take while doing the visual design. So it's not like this has to be the way. There are like feedbacks where the client comes and say, well, no, we need a different kind of a image style or different kind of background style. So all this again based on the feedback, based on how we think that this will work. All this decision needs to be taken care of. So I think that's about it for the prototyping phase, because there are a lot of stuff to complete still, but with the time that we have, we don't have so much of time to complete all the stuff. But if you have any question, if you want us to cover anything, then you can ask.
Can you use same artwork for Android and iOS?
Sure.
In Android, there's in the iOS there's pixel. So how do we incorporate?
No, it doesn't matter, because see, this is one. This is where the base is set, right? This is one. So we don't look at it as a DP for Android or a pixel for iOS. This is one. When we export the files from here, when we say export it for Android, it automatically converts it to the files for Android itself. When you say you want to export it for iOS, just the three of them.
Specifically, image and text. So in iOS, it will be pixel.
It is, yes. So in iOS, when we give the specs, right? So when we give the specs, we need to define the font size, right? The colors and the spacing between them. So for iOS, we give pixel as the base. For Android, we give DP as the base. I think everyone knows, right? For Android, we give DP as the base. So screen independent pixels, right? Density independent pixels. And for iOS, it's pixels. And for the type fonts, again, it's a slightly different for Android is SP.
What's the next step if we exported the wireframe to PNG?
Right.
So what would be the next step to design?
So I didn't get your question. What is the next step?
Oh yeah, if you get some time today,
So when we sometimes what we do is we export this file, the complete visual design flow, and we have the login credential or in InVision. So in InVision, I think everyone is aware of InVision, right?
PNG file in which you export, it will have all clickables.
Yes. It won't have any click. It's going to be a flat file, like an image. Everything is flat. We do export it as different screen, and then we link them. Is this clickable?
If you show a demo, then you have to use the software, or
We can use that the cloud thing that we have an export merge. There's a cloud here. We import the files there, and then we can share the files there. But we haven't actually tried it, so we don't know that part. But
is there a file which has all the linking of various?
We can do it directly here.
And that one single file you can just execute.
So we can do this.
You have to use this tool to show that.
You can, one thing what you showed is that you can do it in steps. The same functionality is available in Adobe XD. Or you can show, it's going to show the InVision part, so where we have all this ready, then you can connect, you can create hot links from this page to this page. So you can see the actual demo going on.
Open?
Yeah, here is InVision. This is InVision, there is actually, I think that there are 3 or 4 projects are free in this, then you have to pay.
One project is free.
One is free. So you create your assets and images there. Then you create hot links, then you click on this, then it will cancel. So you can see actually how it is on a mobile. Or the sketch has a companion app actually.
नहीं स्क्रीन शेयर करके तो रिकॉर्डर नहीं
Oh, but it has an iOS companion app. You install that app and you create your app there, you design it, and then it will show it on your phone.
I think it's here. It's not. Should be here somewhere.
Something. Just to log into try here some.
Okay. Great. ये अच्छा नहीं होगा.
Profile में.
अलग-अलग जगह पे रखा है. Great. So this is a prototyping tool. If I think everyone is aware, for those who are not aware of this, InVision is a prototyping tool where we can quickly check the flows, check the screens. We do is we select a prototype. So we can create a board. We can create. Now you can start. InVision has launched a InVision Studio recently, where you can actually do all this directly there. Prototyping. Say you select for Android or iPhone. Android. Say. We just need to drag and drop the files here. For that, again, I need to make all this screen exportable. Some of them are exportable this one. Export. visual design screens. Ideally, we should have named, it's already named here, so the name will come. And we can change the name here directly. We say want to change the name for this. This. It reflects here. So when you export a file, you don't have to name the files again. Where's the loading screen going? Okay, anyways. So if you want to rearrange the screen here, you can just drag and drop somewhere. But again, and we just need to create hot links for this. When you click on this, it loads the result page. This thing. So you can select either hover, swipe, tap, swipe up. All these functions are available. Quickly, you can go to this page. So we need a back button here, which we haven't given yet. So imagine that we have a back button here. It should not go to the splash screen, but that's for the sake of it. And we select this dish, and we link it to this page. And to make this clickable, we link it to the last page. So like what you asked there. So these are flat images. What we can do is if you want to see it directly, instant resolve, all these functions again, we can check it out. Bad, very bad. We need a back button here. So if you want the screen to move from left to right, you can also do that. You just change the styling here, transition, you push left. So these controls are available. Again, this is not very powerful because still just flat images moving or dissolving. But tools, if you want micro interactions, right? So the better tool will be Flinto, like we mentioned, Flinto or Principal, or even like if you're really into it, so the Adobe software, which you can create videos, After Effects. So I think that's about it. So any more questions?
How do we manage the design files? I mean,
Yes, we do. So when we start, sorry?
How do you
So we don't use Git because again, that doesn't make lot of sense to us. we create our own the filing system. If the Git, I'm not sure. We mostly for code. Yeah. For design part, we don't do a lot of this. We can, if required, we use Jira to Confluence to. We use Dropbox sometimes if the client requires, and we can also use OneDrive. Same thing, Google.
You put files in the online.
Right. So which versions we keep. So say the landing page. So version 1 was this. So next version what went to 2.
So related to the questions.
Yeah.
With one app, there are multiple images.
Right.
And sizes like 100 or 200 plus.
Right.
Every time, suppose we take all this web server and then fetch that image. How we do it? Every time we fetch that images and display here.
For this, for the prototyping?
Not prototyping, actually.
Actually, I think Kausal can answer that.
What was the question, please? Can you explain? What was the question?
So suppose we have an application. We are having 100 plus images. And let us say videos also. And this we generally keep on servers.
Yeah.
So we do directly all these images also fetch every time to display on device or from server, or it will be when downloading the app, it will come some minimum.
So like stuff like this will come from server. This will not keep it local. This is dynamic. But stuff like the logo, that there is one logo here, there is some other asset here, there will be home button here. iOS supports at bottom navigation, there is home, then there is other navigation items. So those assets should be locally. Other assets should be actually come from server. If we keep everything in the server and load it dynamically, the code will be actually messy and there will be a lag. We'll be showing a lot of progress bars. We should not do that. Only the content, content that we cannot keep locally should be kept in server. Like videos. If there's a short intro video, you're keeping it in a local app, that's fine. But if it's a big video or you want to change the video, once you keep it in the app, God, you cannot update that. This is one problem we have. But once you keep it in the server, you can update anytime you want. The next time the app launches, it will download the new version. So there are some pros and cons sort of thing. But assets, app UI related assets, whatever that we created, that should go in the app.
How much size in the, UI related assets should download?
Maybe you can tell SVGs are very actually lightweight.
If PNGs are again smaller sizes, but again if there are a lot of images, then yeah. But I think it doesn't affect much, because in an app that the kind of logo, the imagery that we use, say for example the back button. So we use 1 or 2 back button. It's consistent everywhere. So one icon is used throughout the app. So we are not going to multiply the use different icons for different screens. So similar icons will be used in multiple screens, so it won't affect much.
For video, because you have a small video, we have to put in an app as intro or something like that. So we format it.
Or even whichever is easier with the phone, CDP or M4A. But MP4 is fine as well.
Yes, so in this case, you design the screen for the portrait mode. So what if you want to have a landscape mode? So
we can do that, but we need to create that. But again, for something like this kind of app, I think it doesn't make sense to do it in landscape mode. But if required, we can do it. Quality we can set. We can set that quality if you want to say. Yes, we have Photoshop is one example where you can compress. It is a very powerful tool for any raster based files. Even there are online tools, but I don't know if the quality that you get in the end is messy sometimes. Yeah, we get online tools, but again, you don't get the quality that you expect. Photoshop, you can control like which size and which like dimensions that you want and all this in detail.
If you want good assets, the Adobe.
Right. But for this kind of assets, right? Any vector-based assets, this works. Sketch works. It's cheaper also compared to Adobe, and you buy it once, and for a year they'll support you. You can update it, but once that license is expired, you can still use it. But you want to update, then you have to pay the license again. But we're not here to support Sketch, so it's just that it's more user-friendly in terms of development point of view. So. So right, if we have to create a responsive site, then we need to consider it from the beginning. So here we expect it to be a mobile app, a native app. So we consider it as just a mobile app. We didn't consider it as to be. Right. Right. It will resize. So when we export the assets here, like we just showed, for example. So for example, Android, we have 4x for a bigger device. So automatically it will map those 4x for the 4x device.
Font selection.
Right.
If I am choosing any font, and sometimes whatever Google have this their font, they have made many fonts. But what happens? I change the font. There is a menu UI for different fonts. So sometimes font is different, displayed differently on that mobile. So if there is something like that, please, what type of font we have to choose?
Again, so mostly because Google use, like no, just to clarify something, right? So a lot of client doesn't want to pay for fonts, right? So they want a free font, and there are a lot of limitations. You want good fonts, you have to buy a license, and then if you integrate it correctly there, you don't have a lot of issues. But yes, cost can also.
So Google actually has open source 800 sort fonts. You can use it directly. So if you want consistent look and feel across, iOS and Android app, right? So in iOS and in Android both, you can have the font file, the TTF file. You can put it in the app, and then you can use that. So it doesn't matter if the system supports that font or not, because it's in your app. You can use it locally.
Every UI it will be the same.
Yeah. I mean, unless you mess up your code, it will be same.
And again, typography is like it's a huge discipline. So a lot of designers spend a lot of time creating typeface, but a lot of client doesn't want to pay for it. So everything looks similar. If you want a slightly distinct look, then we convince the client that, see, this is what works, you should go with this, and you have to pay for a license. This is something that we need to convince the client.
As a designer, which font family you suggest to go with designs?
It depends on the product. Different.
Generally, it's a sans based, right? For the Google.
We can use serif also. It depends on say it's a newspaper app like the Times Network or something, the London Times. So we might use serif font for the heading, not for the body. Or something like an app, learning app for kids, like the one that we had mentioned. Like we won't use a very serious kind of font.
When is the second meetup and the agenda after this?
Okay, so the plan is to have these meetups every 2 or 3 weeks, because every week we also need some time to prepare. So the plan is 2 weeks, but it can actually go till 3 or 4 weeks. So this is actually the first meetup we had. That was on I think 17th of April. So now this is 17th of March. Then this is 14th of April. This took some time. Now we'll try to have the meetups of this particular series every 3 weeks or 2 weeks. So now the agenda is we will develop this app, a slight variation of this app. Everything else will be the same. Because it's showing burgers, we'll probably use. We'll show the restaurant images and restaurant names there instead of burgers. Yeah, everything else will be the same. We'll develop this app. We'll see, how to structure the app, how to architect the app, how to interact with your remote servers, how to interact locally, how to mock a few things so that you can concentrate on the UI. So we'll do that. Rohan, can you share?
So quickly before we jump into this, the quick recap. Did we complete? We tried to complete most of it, but did we list out anything in this? Some part. So we understand we can go through the complete years. 2-3 years of course. Personas. So if you really want, then you can have a different session for personas only for a complete page. Even there is not enough, but we can cover a lot of stuff there. This again, we need to. This is something that we need to discover it while what the project is about. Is it going to be a responsive app? And then if it is a responsive app, what information goes into a website, or information goes into a tablet, or information goes into a mobile. You cannot keep the same information everywhere for all the devices because screen size is different. Right? Information details, important information only we keep it in the small details. One more detail, you click on it and you see the details. So decision needs to be made. And for that again, we require the wireframes. You do first finalize the wireframe, what goes where, what is important, what is not important, what this needs to be taken. Tools, we have mentioned some tools, but definitely you can check out free tools and try out things. Even Sketch give 1 month free. You just check out how the tools work. Then, like personally, we would recommend Adobe software, but again, it's very expensive.
And yet, please don't adhere to his suggestion. He actually suggested, buying some cracked version of that.
Please don't do that.
Don't do that.
There are some online tools.
Online, there are a lot of tools. Yeah.
There are some online tools, but you won't get that kind of flexibility.
Right. If you've seen draw.io is good. Yeah. By the way, we'll share the link of this file. It has a link to join our Slack group. So you can directly join our Slack group. You can follow our Twitter handle. So for the next meetup updates, or if you have any queries, you can tag Pune Mobile Devs. Then we'll try to answer as best as we can. And yeah, here's a list of topics. Here's the recording of our previous meetup. If you want to see, there's the YouTube links here. In the previous meetups, we just covered basics of Android Studio, Swift, and Xcode, and the basic ecosystem of all these IDEs. So there's a link to YouTube link here. You can watch that, and yeah, this is the link. This is the link for that. We wanted to cover prototyping first, then the basics, but we covered basics first, then prototyping, and you can see the next is architecting this particular app. Next will be designing on that architecture. There are some details, and then there will be development part 1. There will be development part 2, testing, best practices. Then we'll also try to put up ads and monetize these in iOS and Android both. Yeah. And then we'll see how to actually how we'll release it. And the last one is actually we are open for suggestions. If you want to suggest anything, what should we cover, like a hackathon or something else, or then we can do that. And even these are all tentative. It depends on if we are not able to cover this, a lot of stuff is left. So we'll divide this into design 1 and design 2. If this is taking a short time, we'll convert into one meetup plus development. This is the list. You were asking about the plan, right? So this is the plan right now. So we have covered 1 and 2, and now from this we'll cover. This will probably have in the second week of May. We'll try to have it in second week of May.
Architecting and development are very always under both one.
Yeah. So this was another feedback that don't cover both in one meetup. So what we do is we'll take up either Android first, and then we'll have a 10 minutes break, and then we'll take up iOS. Or we can switch that. But there will be a 10 minutes break in between, and minimal portion will be overlapping. Very minimal portion will be overlapping. So Android and iOS will be separate. I suggest you attend both, but if you don't want to attend Android, you can totally skip it. Yeah, so that's the plan. So yeah, but in every meetup, we'll have some Android portion, some iOS portion, and the same thing we'll try to do. If we're creating a login screen, we'll create the same thing in Android and iOS both. So you can compare, like, you know, how easy it is, how bad it is, if this is good or this is bad. And again, this is actually this is something that we came up with. If you want to suggest something else, do put up in the meetup to the event page, or you can put the feedback session on the Slack. Rohan.
Is there any website or any piece of social media to learn basics online tutorials?
Tutorials online?
And minimum basic previous they have to learn like Java.
University have their Google publish their trainings university. Yeah. You can get it.
It's all free, yes. On Udacity, it's free. Yeah, the number one suggestion would be these links.
Okay.
This actually that I and Rohan that covered that. So this is actually we tried to keep it in such a way that after this is actually very basics. We started assuming that variable creation, what are classes and objects. That is the assumption. After that, you can see this. So this is actually the name is Android and iOS basics.
And Java is
Java is yeah. A little bit Java is. We assume that you know that. Please repeat that.
Can we do it in Python or some other language?
No, this is only basics, right? We're only covering Java for Android. There is also Kotlin for Android, but that will take up later, not right now. After this series, we'll take that up.
I think you want cross development in Python.
Oh yeah, we can develop in Python and all, but not in this series. In this series, we'll only focusing on Java for Android and Swift for iOS. So please share that link in that in our event comments, in the mobile app prototyping page comments. Yes, this page will be constant. We'll be updating this. You will all have the view only access. We'll keep updating it. So right now we have only one, so we'll add this meetup's recording. If I hope everything is fine, we'll upload it on the YouTube and we'll share the recording here. So this will have everything.
So could you upload the previous slide?
The slides?
Yeah.
Actually, the last time slides were not that much.
No previous. The guy.
Oh yeah. So please, one request, Manoj, that the slides that we used, right? Is it okay to share it publicly?
Yes.
So please share it on.
There is just one project that we can share. We'll remove it, replace it with something else. We can share it.
Yeah.
So because a lot of clients, so we signed an NDA. We're gonna share it.
Yeah. Why did you show it here? So just
So it's okay.
Okay. So just add those PDF, add those PDF in SlideShare or speaker deck or somewhere, and then share the link on the comment section of.
Or I can share it to you.
Oh yeah, you can share it to me. I'll share it. So we'll have that by today evening. We'll have that. On the let me show you. This is the event page. You can go to. You can do a meetup.com/Pune Mobile Developers. /Pune Mobile Developers is our group. This is our group. Yeah, Pune Mobile Developers. If you see this meetups, right? If you see the meetups, upcoming right now, this is the upcoming. You can go to past because it will become past tomorrow. You go to this event page, and here at the bottom you can see there are comments here. So here we'll add a link to that Google Doc, and I'll add a link to the speaker deck or some other slides. So yeah, that's it, guys. Maybe you guys can come here. Any other questions? Sure. In Flutter, no, not right now, but you can definitely put up suggestions. So we are looking for suggestions actively. Any other questions from UX side? Sketch, Adobe.
Please don't ask so much question about Sketch. We don't.
Yeah.
I
as I come from a hybrid development background,
Right.
so there we use SAS and CSS of files. So is there any way that we can export this into?
So there are tools like Zeppelin, where you can integrate with Sketch, and you get the code directly.
I think Karan Rathod suggested the mobile application, right? You did? Okay. So hybrid app development will cover it, but not, I mean, after this. Not right now. I thought you're Karan Rathod.
Any other feedback, like is the session like really out of the world?
Yeah, we'll,
doesn't connect.
we'd love it if you can put up your feedbacks here on the feedback form.
We love to hear it.
And soon we'll have an app that will replace the forms. But yeah, right now maybe put here your comments here or on the feedback form.
What can be potential disadvantages of developing a wire?
Yes, Manoj, this is actually, I wanted you to cover this.
What if you don't have these skills of using
Right. The question is, why prototyping? I have an idea, why not start development? Why prototyping?
So I would say like so everyone can design a car, right? Everyone can, and it's just a human. But is it going to be a good car? Is it going to run fast? Is it going to? So we can design something which moves, but is it going to look like a car? Is it going to run like a car? That comes, so it might work. Something might work. Something may not work. Design doesn't have to be like someone who has to learn design from. It needs a lot of practice. With practice comes experience, and you say like this works, this doesn't work, and you take a decision there. If you don't take a decision there and someone just do it, then it's not going to be a good design. And not a good design, not usable, it goes to scratch.
So I want to show something to you. So when you are developing a car, right? Don't
I didn't know this.
don't do this. See, the top one is actually, your client is unhappy, unhappy. At the end, he becomes happy. This is actually the product development thing that we should follow. It's here. It's a working model. One guy can write this. So you build software like this.
Right.
This is agile, right? So after every sprint or after every week or a month or so, you have something to show. You have something that is good. Till this part, it's not workable. You cannot show anything. This is a waterfall model kind of thing.
I think also read my mind. I didn't know this screen was there.
Has to like, is there like a course to learn language?
Yes.
Yeah, there are multiple.
It has to be skilled, especially skilled in that.
So we actually,
whatever comes intuitive to you.
I studied graphic design in NIT, and graphic design. So we studied the basic layout and all this typography, colors, all these basic details about how we can make visuals. Right? But I was not actually a UX designer first. I moved into UX design 2-3 years back. Then in the initial stage, slight struggle because because as a graphic designer we mostly work with print-related files. So flat file which print and then convert, and then we need to take care of other things. When it comes to screen, it's a very different process altogether. So we need to learn that whole thing again. So it almost took me a year to actually get used to it. But as a design process, the design thought, the design thinking, the design process, it remains same for any kind of design. Maybe product designer, UX designer, graphic designer, or even animation design, right? So this design process remains the same. So process that we follow, maybe it's based on, say, the screen-based process. But for an animator, he also needs to understand the audience. He also needs to understand the user persona, right? All this needs to be considered first before design. The design principle remains the same, but how we execute it, skills, it's something that we develop through years of practicing. But there are courses in ITC and even in NIT, but again, it's almost 3 years of courses. There's sort of courses, but I don't know if I cannot comment on that because
But for developing mobile applications, would you need that level of skill? It's a graduate program.
It is.
Yeah, it's a more of a degree, highly oriented program.
No, they are different. They are even designers. I have a cousin who works as a UX designer. He studied botany in masters in some MSU botany, and he started into design field some 3-4 years back. Very good. He can do it. But he has that basic design principle that since childhood that he has followed. So he can do. He has done portraits of like very big clients. Animations, you can do animation, you can do mobile prototyping, all this web prototyping. This is something that we learn, and then, so again, design is very flexible. That passion, you can jump into any.
What are the blocks that we can follow? Blocks. Any video.
There is actually a website called baddesigns.com.
I would suggest
there is uxpin.com.
Subtraction.io. I think subtraction.io. I don't know if it is IO or. So this guy is a current principal designer in Adobe. Before that, he started this blog, which I think is a very good blog. He has moved out of the current. In the early years, he used to write about all this design process and all, but now he moved into. Even now he writes. He moved into movies, into a lot of other fields also. So this is one blog that we can follow.
Vision blog also you can follow.
Right. Medium also you'll find a lot of UX related blogs. Dribble is something that you can look at, but if you want to learn, then I wouldn't suggest because like this. Behance or Dribble, but I would say please don't carry away by those inspirations. First, start with your own thing, then you can look at those stuff.
And you can get a lot of free icons from material.io. These are actually, I think it's under Creative Commons 4.0 license. And there are this flaticons.com. There is what is it? The Noun project. Yeah, the Noun project.
Here you can get small courses.
This is
interaction design foundation.
Okay.
If you want to learn.
These are short courses.
Yeah. 2 days, 4 days courses.
This is lifetime.
Huh? 3 days.
This starts into this.
Yeah, but the course duration is like.
So we are done with today's stuff.
Sorry?
Are these courses free?
No. They're paid.
So we are done with today's stuff, just for announcement. So we will have another 20 minutes session after this. So if Manoj, if you can export a few icons into iOS and Android, and maybe
we just complete the entire flow.
Yeah.
The back missing was back icon was missing.
Okay.
We just realized that. Add it because you're gonna require it.
Just right now, just a few icons that you have right now.
Right.
If you can export into iOS and Android icons, like these bottom icons will do,
Sure.
or this burger icon, this fab icon. So he will be exporting those, and I'll show how to import it the standard way, how to do this. And so that's it. That's what is left. But from UX point of view, we're done. We'll have in half an hour or so, if you stay, we'll have snacks outside. So please have that before going. So there will be a 10 minutes break now.
PNG.
There will be 10 minutes break now. So please, you can fetch it up. There's a coffee machine outside. So in 10 minutes, we'll start with the session. Well, not a session, it's more like informal creating basic projects. Creating the starter code for our app that we'll be creating. So, thank you. Thanks to Manoj and Rahul. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We had a
Thank
good
you.
time.
Guys, please fill the feedback form and keep it right here from the